Hello everyone, welcome to Kids Auto and Truck Repair. Today we have a 2005 Chevy Trailblazer with a 4.2 liter engine. The customer complaint on this vehicle is the engine does not rev up when you step on the accelerator pedal. When you step on the accelerator pedal, the engine RPM on the dash barely goes up, so it doesn't go all the way up to 3,000 or 4,000 RPMs. So it feels like there is a delay when you step on the accelerator pedal. So the RPM does not respond quickly when you step on the accelerator pedal. Now, the throttle body was replaced, right? Oh, throttle body was cleaned. What else was replaced? That's it? Okay.
And I took the oxygen sensor because I thought
you took the oxygen sensor out. Okay.
To see if it was a clock or not.
Okay.
But it's not clock.
Okay. We have the owner of the vehicle here, Castro. He doesn't want to be on camera. He's camera shy. So the O2 sensor, the throttle body was cleaned, and the O2 sensor was what, replaced or cleaned?
No, I took it out.
You took it out?
See if the RPM goes up, because it might be a clock.
Clock cat. Okay. So you took. Okay. So Castro took the O2 sensor out, and then he started the engine while the O2 sensor was out to see if the RPM was gonna go up. He thought maybe the catalytic converter was clogged. So that's good to know. So now let's confirm the customer's complaint, and then we will go from there. So I'm gonna start the engine now. I'm gonna start the engine. So as you can hear, the engine is running, and the check engine light does not remain on the dash. Now, I was told that the battery was replaced. So the battery was dead at some point. They replaced the battery. So the computer's memory is wiped out right now. So we probably don't have a trouble code in the engine computer. So let's confirm the customer's complaint. I'm gonna rev up the engine. I'm going to step on the accelerator pedal all the way down to the floor. Okay, watch this. I'm accelerating and I'm pressing the accelerator pedal all the way to the floor, and let's look at our RPM gauge on the dash. Our RPM gauge only goes up to 1500 RPMs. Check this out. Okay, it doesn't go up to 3000 RPMs. So when we accelerate and step on the accelerator pedal all the way to the floor, this gauge should have gone all the way up to 3000 or 4000 RPMs. Okay, so it acts as if one of the sensors somewhere is defective. It's either the APP sensor or the throttle position sensor. Okay, so our RPM gauge is not going all the way up. I'm gonna step on the accelerator pedal all the way. Watch this. Okay, so our RPM gauge only goes up to about 1600 RPMs. So customer's complaint confirmed. This engine doesn't really rev. So I'm gonna turn off the engine. I'm gonna turn the key on. I'm gonna get the scan tool connected to the vehicle. I already have our scan tool dongle connected to the vehicle. I will get the scan tool ready, and then I will bring you guys back up. I got the scan tool connected to the vehicle. I'm gonna bring it up. So let's scan the engine computer and see what we got. Let's go to code scan. This is gonna scan all the control units on the vehicle. So right off the bat, we have 5 trouble codes in the engine computer. So our first trouble code is P0113, intake air temperature circuit, signal high. I'm sorry for the glare, guys. We are filming outside. I hope you can see this. And then the second trouble code is P0122, and it says TP or APP sensor 1, circuit short/low. Okay, so we have a problem with the throttle position sensor or the APP sensor. And then the third code is P2119, throttle closed position performance. And then the fourth code is P0526, cooling fan speed sensor circuit. And then the last code is P0223, TP or APP sensor 2, circuit open/high. So we have a code for the APP sensor 1 and a code for the APP sensor 2. So we could just have a defective accelerator pedal position sensor or a defective throttle position sensor. So that's what we need to figure out. These codes are very straightforward and very self-explanatory. We have two sensors on the accelerator pedal assembly. One is APP1 and the other one is APP2. So APP stands for accelerator pedal position. So APPS, accelerator pedal position sensor. So there are two sensors. One has a voltage that goes from 0 to 5 volt. I mean 0 to about 4.5. And then the other one goes from 4.5 to about 0.5 volt. So one sensor goes up when you accelerate, and then the other sensor goes down. Now what I'm gonna do is I wanna erase all these codes and then start the engine and accelerate a couple times to see which code comes back first. Whatever code comes back, we're gonna go after that code. Now, since this engine is not really revving up all the way, we either have a defective APP sensor or a throttle position sensor on the throttle body that's defective. So we're gonna have to do some tests to figure that out. So let's scroll down and see what else we have. We have the same codes in the transmission control unit. This is probably because the TCM is part of the ECM. We have a code for the left front wheel speed sensor. We don't have codes in these control units here. We have some classic 2. Oops. Let's back out. We have some classic 2 data link fault. Okay, now there are a bunch of trouble codes here. We're gonna notify the customer about these codes, but we are going to focus on the code that's causing the engine to now rev up all the way. Okay, on the generic side of the tool, we have two codes here. So the first code on the generic side of the tool is P0122 throttle/pedal position sensor switch circuit A, circuit low. And then the other one is P0223 throttle pedal position sensor circuit B. Second code is P0223 throttle pedal position sensor switch B, circuit high. Now, since we only have pedal position sensor codes on the generic side of the tool, I would like to start my test at the APP sensor over here at the throttle pedal. I mean, right over here at the accelerator pedal. So now what I'm gonna do is I am going to go into the engine computer. Okay, so we know what codes we have. The scan tool has already saved these codes. Now, this code over here is what's causing the engine to not rev all the way. So the last code, the second code, and the third code have something to do with the engine not revving all the way. But the fourth code over here doesn't have anything to do with it. So after we fix what's causing the engine to not rev all the way, there will be another problem about the cooling fan. So this is a separate problem. And this here also may be a separate problem. Now, the intake air temperature circuit signal high, this could be caused by a sensor that's left unplugged. I've seen people remove the air filter and forget to connect the temperature sensor that's on the air filter box. So we might have to check that. Maybe the sensor was left unplugged. So now I'm gonna back out and clear these codes. Let me clear these and see what happens. Let's see which codes come back. So we don't have a code right now. I'm gonna start the engine. I'm gonna rev up the engine. Okay, let's see if we have a code that came back. Let's go back in the engine computer. No codes. Okay. Now we already know what codes we have. Now let's go to data. Let's go to data display. So let's go to TAC data. So that's throttle actuator control. Okay, now let's customize this list. Let's look at our APP1, APP2, APP2 voltage, APP1 voltage, throttle position sensor 1 percentage, APP1 percentage, throttle position 1 voltage, throttle position 2 voltage, APP1 and APP2, if they agree or disagree, TPS 1 or 2 agree or disagree. What else? We don't have engine speed here. Engine speed, let's grab this. Okay, so these are the only data PIDs that I'm gonna look at. Now I am going to graph APP1, APP1 and APP2. So now I'm gonna step on the accelerator pedal all the way to the floor. So we're going all the way up to 100%. Okay. So the computer is seeing the pedal going all the way to the floor because APP1 goes from 0 to 100% and APP2 also goes from 0 to 100%. Watch this. So this tells me that we don't have a wiring issue. Okay. So that's good. Now let's look at TPS1 and TPS2. Okay. So at idle, so TPS1 is at 12% and TPS2 is at 4%. So now I'm gonna step on the accelerator pedal all the way to the floor. We're only going up to 30%. This is a problem. This should have gone up to 100%. The APP is going up to 100%, but the throttle body is only going up to 32%. So the throttle body is not opening all the way, it's just opening a little bit. So let's do this one more time. Okay, so the command is there. The accelerator pedal is telling the engine computer to open the throttle body all the way, but the throttle body is not being opened all the way. Okay, so here's our command. Okay. Now, okay. So the throttle body is now going all the way up to 100%. And when we rev up the engine, when we step on the accelerator pedal all the way, our engine RPMs only goes up to 1500 RPMs. Okay. So let's check our gauges on the dash. Everything looks good. Okay. So what do you guys think is the issue? So TPS1 and TPS2 both agree. APP1 and 2 agree. Now let's graph the TPS1 voltage data PID and then TPS2 voltage data PID. I'm gonna rev up the engine. Okay, there's a weird noise coming from under the hood, but check these numbers. Look at throttle position. So throttle position sensor voltage 1 and the throttle position sensor voltage 2. When I rev up the engine, this voltage should be going down. So this voltage over here is high. So this should go from 4.3 to about 1 volt or 0.5 volt. And then this one should be going up. So this one starts low and goes up when you accelerate all the way down. So when you step on the accelerator pedal all the way to the floor. So right now we are sitting at about 0.6 volts. When I rev up the engine, this voltage should be going up to about 4 volts. So watch this. So look. So this voltage is barely dropping. It's only dropping down to 3.4 volts, and then this one over here is barely going up. It's only going up to 1.5 volts. Okay, so this voltage is not dropping low enough, and this one is not increasing high enough. Okay, so we either have a defective throttle motor or a defective throttle position sensors. Because if we look at, let's look at the APP voltages. Okay, so look at the APP voltages. I hope you can see the difference. You see how APP1 is at 1 volt, and then APP2 is at 0.9 volt. So I'm gonna rev up the engine. You see how this one is going all the way up to 4 volts, and this one is also going all the way up to 4 volts. But this one over here is not dropping down. Okay, so let's go under the hood. The issue is at the throttle body. We most likely have a defective throttle body. Let's go under the hood and do some tests at the throttle body wiring. If the wiring is good, this is starting to look like a defective throttle body, because the fact that these TPS sensor voltages are not going all the way down to about 0.5 volt, that tells me that these sensors are not working well. Okay, so now we could also have a ground issue. Maybe these sensors are not being grounded properly. That's it. That could be an issue. I don't think that's the issue though. We're gonna check the wiring. If the wiring checks out okay, we're gonna go ahead and replace the throttle body. It looks like we have a defective throttle here. Okay, so I don't think there's another PID that we need to look at, so we're good to go. I'm going to turn off the engine. We already got enough data. So now let's go under the hood and do some tests at the throttle body assembly. I'm not gonna check the accelerator pedal position sensor, although I said I was gonna start my test here. Based on what I saw on the scan tool, when we accelerate, our APP sensor percentage goes up and down smoothly. Our voltage values are going up and down smoothly. So our issue is probably not at the pedal. So let's go to the throttle first. We might come back to the pedal and do some more tests, but I don't think this is where the issue is. The issue is under the hood. So now let's go under the hood. We're gonna get access to the throttle body. So I am going to remove this tube here. I'm gonna remove this, the temperature sensor. This is the air inlet temperature sensor. It's connected, so there was a code for this sensor. Maybe the code was set at some point because the sensor got disconnected somehow. Castro was probably doing some things here. So I'm gonna remove this box. I wanna look at the throttle blade and see how the throttle blade looks. Actually, I can leave this connected. I gotta undo this bolt. I'm gonna remove this box. Okay, let's look at the throttle blade. The throttle blade doesn't look dirty. So here's our throttle wiring. The throttle wiring looks fine. Okay, so we don't have corrosion in the throttle electrical connector. We have 8 wires here. I believe 2 wires will be for the throttle motor, and then the other 6 wires will be for the throttle position sensors. Okay, so I'm gonna reconnect this. Okay, so we have a bunch of wires here. Now, I'm gonna grab my scan tool. Castro, if you can give me that scan tool, please. Okay, let's grab our scan tool here. Actually, let me put it here. Sorry for the glare. Can you make sure the key is on? Okay, so the key is on. Okay, actually, can you turn the key off? Let's look at the throttle blade as Castro is cycling the key on and off. So turn the key off. On. Okay. So the throttle blade moves, the throttle blade moves slightly. So the key is on right now. So now let's go to our functional test and see if we can open the throttle body with our scan tool. So let's go to functional test, output controls, right here, throttle body blade control. Let's click on this. Let's see how wide this blade can open. Okay, so I'm going to put this right here. I want to show you the scan tool and the throttle blade. I hope you can see this blade right here. This throttle blade is only going up to 25%. That's it. It feels like this blade is binding. This throttle blade won't go up to 100%. Watch this. Look. It's gonna stop. You see that? Yeah, so this throttle blade has a problem, guys. There's a problem with this throttle body. So watch this throttle blade. I'm gonna close it. So we are down to 0% now. When I open it with the scan tool, we should go all the way up to 100%. So watch this, 5%. So I want you guys to watch the blade. %, and the throttle blade is stuck. Yeah, so you see that? This throttle blade has a problem. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is, since we know this throttle blade is sticking, this throttle blade is faulty. Something is going on. I think the gears in the throttle body assembly are binding. So we're gonna go ahead and replace this throttle body assembly. But before we replace it, I'm gonna check the wiring. I mean, the wiring is fine. I don't think we have an issue with the wiring, but I'm just gonna double check this before we replace it, okay? I'm gonna grab my lab scope and back probe all the wires at the throttle body electrical connector. We're gonna check the voltages we have over here at the throttle body electrical connector. We have to have 5 volt and ground and sensor ground for the TPS sensors, and then we have to have power and ground for the electric motor for the throttle plate, okay? And the power and ground for the electric motor for the throttle plate will alternate from power to ground to open the plate to go on one direction, and then when the plate closes, the computer switches the power to the other side of the motor to close the plate. I'm gonna get all these wires back probed. I'm gonna bring out my 8-channel lab scope, and then I will bring you guys back up. I have back probed all the wires at the throttle body electrical connector off camera. As you can see, we are back probing all the wires at this connector. We're gonna use our ATS scope. This is one of my favorite scopes. I don't use this scope as much as I should, but I'm gonna make an effort to start using this scope as much as possible. This is a great scope. I like it. As you can see, we're making connection on all our channels. So we are using 8 channels. We have 8 wires at this electrical connector, so we're using all our 8 channels. So we're making good connection. This is good. We are grounding our scope at the battery. I'm sure my man Bernie Thompson will be happy to see this. So we are getting ground from the battery. Our scan tool is still connected to the vehicle. So right now the key is off in the vehicle. So look at the values that we have on the lab scope screen. So now I'm gonna go in the vehicle and turn the key on. Let's see what we got. I'm pretty sure this vehicle is just gonna need a throttle body, but before we replace the component, we have to double check the wiring and make sure there's no issues in the wire. So we got the key on. Now let's go back under the hood. Okay, so let's see what we got. Now let's look at the values we have on the lab scope first. So our yellow trace has 5.02 volts, so this is a 5-volt reference. And then the red channel has a value of 1.4 volts, and then the green channel has 0.008. The blue one is 11.8, so this is system voltage. And then the white channel has 5.019, and then purple has 11.8. This one looks like orange, so channel 7, orange 0.006, and then dark orange 3.5. Now, based on these values, I can tell that this throttle body is getting good 5-volt reference, because we should have two 5-volt reference wires for the TPS sensors. So our first 5-volt reference is there on the yellow channel, and then we also have 5-volt reference on the white channel. Okay, so our TPS sensors are getting good reference voltage. And then the blue trace, which has 11.8, blue and purple will be our throttle motor voltage wires. So the computer switches polarity of these two wires to make the electric motor in this assembly turn from one direction to another. Okay, and then the 0.00, this looks like sensor ground. Okay, we have 0.008, so green channel is sensor ground, and this channel here is also sensor ground, 0.006. And then the red channel is going to be our sensor signal. Now, I don't know which sensor this is. This could be TPS sensor 1, and this one could be TPS sensor 2, so vice versa. Okay, so the last channel is going to be our sensor signal, and then the red channel over here is going to be our other sensor signal. I can tell just based on the numbers that we have on the lab scope screen. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is we're going to go to our scan tool. We're going to turn on the throttle, so we're going to open and close the throttle body. Let me bring this over here. I hope you can see. I'm going to open and close the throttle, and then we're going to watch the voltages on the lab scope screen. So let's go to functional test, output controls, throttle blade control. I'm sorry for the glare, guys. I'm doing this outside, and I want to do this really fast before we replace the throttle body. So now I am going to increase the throttle percentage. So now I'm going to try to open the throttle blade. Okay, so I'm opening the throttle blade. My numbers over here are changing, so I'm gonna open the throttle blade with the scan tool. I hope you can hear the throttle click, the throttle blade click. Okay, so we are down to 0. Now let's increase, so watch this number over here. 5. I hope you can see this. I'm sorry for the glare, guys. Okay, so now as I'm doing this, I want you guys to look at the numbers on the lab scope. Okay, so watch this number over here. So I am at 25% right now, so I'm gonna go down. So I'm down to 20, 15, 10. You see how this number, so this is the signal coming from the sensor. You see how this signal is changing? 0. So we went down to 0.4 volts. I'm going to increase the percentage of the throttle blade, the opening percentage of the throttle blade. So 5%, 10%. You see how now this number is increasing? Okay. 25%. It's going to be the same thing with this number over here. Okay. Let me put these two kind of next to each other. So let me go down all the way to 0. So 0% on the scan tool. Watch this number over here and watch this number here. Okay, so now the red trace or the red channel is giving us a value of 0.4 volts. And then over here we have 4.5. So now I'm going to start opening the throttle. 15%. Okay, this number came down and this one is increasing. So 20%. Okay, we went up to 20% and then 25%. Okay, so this one here comes down, this one increases. But the throttle plate sticks. When the throttle body plate gets stuck, these numbers don't move any further. As you can see, our 5 volt didn't change. Our sensor ground looks good. The computer is definitely commanding the throttle plate to open and close. So the wiring of the throttle body is good. Okay, so we are done with our testing. We don't have a wiring issue. The issue is the throttle body assembly. So this assembly needs to be replaced. Okay, so now I'm going to talk to the customer so we can get a new throttle body assembly. We're going to replace this throttle body assembly. After we do that, this is going to be fixed. I'm going to get another throttle body assembly. We're going to install it and then we will be good to go. We don't have to use the deep record. I mean, we could, if you guys wanted to see. Okay, because the deep record will catch some info that the regular meter may not be able to see. Okay, so look at the lab scope screen there. Okay, so the command is there, the control is there, our 5 volt reference is there, our sensor ground is there, everything is there, but the throttle plate is not opening all the way. Okay, so we are at 25% right now and the throttle plate is stuck. Yeah, so this thing is stuck. So we have to replace the throttle body assembly. I'm gonna get a new throttle body assembly and then I will bring you guys back up. I talked to the customer off camera about the throttle body replacement. The vehicle that we're working on is my buddy's vehicle. My friend Castro is his vehicle, and Castro is very knowledgeable when it comes to car repair. He fixes his vehicle himself. So he brought this vehicle to me so I can be 100% sure that it only needed a throttle body, because, you know, the electrical side he wasn't sure about, so he wanted me to diagnose it so we could be sure that it only needed a throttle body. So we did the diagnosis. We know it needs a throttle body. He asked me if he can just install a used throttle body. So it's a Chevy, and Castro works on his car himself. So if this throttle body does not last, he can go ahead and install a new throttle body later on. So he got a used throttle. We're going to install the used throttle body, and after that, this vehicle is going to be fixed. So now let's go under the hood so we can get the throttle body replaced, and then we will see what happens. We still have our lab scope connected to the throttle body wiring. Our scan tool is also connected to the vehicle. So now I am going to replace this throttle body. The throttle body has 4 bolts that hold it on the intake manifold. And this is the used throttle body that Castro went and picked up from a local junkyard nearby. So we're going to install this throttle body. So now I'm not going to remove these back probing tools that I have over here. I'm just going to gently try to disconnect the electrical connector without getting these back probing tools removed. Okay, so we're gonna leave all these back probing tools here because I want to compare the voltages that we have on these wires with the voltages that we're gonna have on the same wires with a non-good throttle. Okay, so we're gonna disconnect this tube. So here comes the first one. So removing this throttle body is really straightforward and pretty easy. Now, I hope you guys remember the voltages that we saw on the lab scope, the voltage values that we saw on the lab scope when this throttle assembly was on the vehicle. So the faulty throttle, we're gonna compare those values with the new throttle. So here comes the old one, okay? So this is the bad assembly. And then this over here is the non-good used one from the junkyard, okay? As you can see, this one has markings on it. This one doesn't. Okay, so I'm gonna get this one out of the way. We're gonna install this one. Okay, so the throttle seal looks good. The gasket looks good. So now we're gonna install this one here. Okay, so at this point, I'm gonna make sure that all these 10mm bolts start by hand first before I tighten them. We're gonna crisscross them. Now, you don't want to go super tight on these. Okay. All right, so that's good. Now I'm gonna connect the electrical connector of the throttle body, and I'm gonna connect this tube here too. Okay. All right, so that's good. We have replaced the throttle body. The old one is sitting right there. Our lab scope is still connected to the throttle body wiring. So we're gonna go ahead and turn the key on. Castro, okay. If you can turn the key on for us. The key is in the cup holder. Okay, so the key is on. So right off the bat, I already see a slight difference on the voltages that we have on the lab scope screen versus what we had before. So our scan tool is still connected to the vehicle. We're going to open the throttle body. We're gonna do the same test we did earlier, and then we're gonna watch the blade and see how much it's going to open. So let's watch the blade first. Okay. I'm gonna put the scan tool right here. Sorry for the glare. So watch the blade as I'm opening it. So we have the same thing on this one. This one is also only going up to 25%. Okay, so now here's what I'm gonna do. Let's back out. Let's see if there is a relearn procedure that needs to be done since we replaced the throttle. calibration. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start the engine. Let's go ahead and start the engine. So actually, Castro, let's put this cover that goes over here first. I'm gonna get all my lab scope test leads out of the way. Okay, you can leave those clamps loose for now. You can go ahead and start the engine. Okay, the engine is running, so rev it. How is it? Good? Okay, all done. Now let's go in the vehicle so we can look at the RPM gauge. Remember before, the RPM gauge was only going up to 1500 RPMs. So before it could only go up to 1500 RPMs. So I'm gonna rev up the engine. You see that? So that's nice. Very good. So that's good. Now, let's back out. Let's go. I want to look at my TPS data PIDs and APP data PIDs. Remember the TPS data PIDs, one PID was not going all the way down to 0, if I remember correctly. Okay, so now we're just gonna compare what we had before versus what we have now after replacing the throttle body assembly. Okay, so I'm gonna graph the TPS1 and TPS2. So watch this. TPS1, I'm sorry for the glare. TPS1, without stepping on the accelerator pedal, TPS1 has a value of 4.3 volts, and then TPS2 has a value of 0.6 volts. So now I'm gonna rev up the engine. You see the difference now? Can you tell? So there's a big difference now. This is good. This is fixed, guys. Check out the gauge on the dash. I'm gonna rev up the engine. Very nice. This is fixed. Okay, this is what I wanted to see. Okay, so at idle we have 4.3 volts over here and then 0.6 volts over here. Now I'm gonna hold the accelerator pedal to the floor. So this comes down to about 3.4, and then this one goes up. Okay, it's not going down as much as I would like it to, but maybe that's just how it works, because I mean, as you can see, there's a big difference right now. Our RPM gauge is going higher than it used to. Okay, so Castro, what do you think?
Yeah.
You think it's, say it louder?
Yes, it's fixed.
It's fixed?
Yes.
Are you convinced?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I'm going to turn off the engine. I'm going to turn the key on. Let's see if there is a throttle relearn that we have to do. And then if there's no relearn, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this video. The fact that the RPM gauge is going all the way up to 3000 RPMs, this tells me that it's fixed. Okay, because before it wasn't doing that. Let's see. Functions, output controls. Okay, so I don't think this throttle body needs to be reset. I don't see a throttle reset or idle learn. Let's see if there's an idle learn. Crank variation learn. Maybe. Hold on, do we have to start the engine? Start and let the engine idle. We're just gonna do the idle relearn. Crank variation relearn. That is what it says. I mean, this probably doesn't have anything to do with the throttle body, but I just want to do it while we're here. What do you think, Castro? It's good? Can you check under the hood? See if my test leads, lab scope test leads are out of the way. They're not caught up by the belt?
Everything is out of the way.
Okay, thank you. Man, this thing sounds good. Test complete, crankshaft variation learn successful. I hope you can see that right there. Okay, so that's good. Look at the gauge. Nice. Woo! Did you see that? This thing's got power. So Castro brought this vehicle on a trailer. You can actually drive this back if you want. If you had tags, you know. You don't have tags, so you can drive this. Very nice. Very nice. So I'm gonna turn off the engine. Let's see what codes we have. I'm gonna erase the codes and then we should be good to go. Now, there was a fan, so right here, TPS. Now, these codes are set. I believe when we disconnected the throttle body, the key was still on. So that's why it is.
And the sensor too, the air.
And the sensor over there, the air temperature sensor. Yeah. So that's why. So we're gonna clear these codes and then we should be good to go. Let's see. No codes present, so we're good to go. All right, guys, so we are done. I'm gonna get the scan tool out of the way. Let's start the engine. The check engine light should be off now. Okay, this is fixed. So we're gonna have another happy customer. So my friend Castro here, although you don't wanna be on camera, Castro is going to be happy. All right, guys, so just by looking at the gauge, just the fact that the gauge is going all the way up to 3000 RPMs, I can tell that this is fixed. Okay, so we're good to go. The issue was a defective throttle body on this vehicle. So now let's wrap up this video. I'm gonna turn off the engine. So we are done. I'm gonna get all my tools out of the way. Okay, so we're gonna get all our tools disconnected and then we will wrap up this video. We are done. This vehicle is fixed. I got all my tools out of the way. We tightened everything that we removed. We're good to go. So now let's wrap up this video. That's it. This Chevy Trailblazer is fixed. The issue on this vehicle was a defective throttle body assembly. We looked at the data earlier. The data led us to the throttle body. We checked the throttle body wiring. The wiring of the throttle body was fine. We replaced the throttle body. Now all is well. Before, this vehicle could not rev past 1500 RPMs. Now this vehicle is revving like it's supposed to. So all is well. This is fixed. My friend Castro is going to be happy. So I hope you like the video. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like the video, give it a thumb down. But if you do, you gotta tell me why so we can make better videos in the future. If this is your first time here, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell so you can get notified every time I upload a new video. If you have any comments, questions, criticism, leave them in the comment box. Thanks for watching. See you next time.